Senator Paul, thank you for being here. The podium is yours.
Wow, I've already been promoted. I went from junior to senior senator with Senator McConnell not here. I'm just stepping right in, getting to go first. We are pretty lucky, though, to have people in leadership. Senator McConnell, Congressman Rogers, who, there's average ordinary senators, average ordinary congressmen who don't have much weight, but you have two in your state who do have an enormous amount of weight, not physically or anything, but they can get a lot of things done that others can't. I think in Kentucky we're lucky to have them. I was in New York on Monday, and the police were everywhere. I went by the Federal Reserve, police were lined up, the streets were blocked, and so I said, what happened? And they said the Federal Reserve has been robbed. But they caught the criminals. The criminals got into the main safe, and the criminals are standing there. The robbers are standing there, and the robbers they were perplexed. They didn't know what to do with minus $16 trillion. All right, that's my attempt at humor, and I stole it from someone else, but there's things you learn up here as time goes on. I've been up here 2 years, and I learned that, you know what, if you don't pass a farm bill, we revert back to 1949. I guess y'all learned that too. So there's a lot of crazy things that happen up here, and there's still a lot of craziness in the sense that a lot of bills should go to committee. People come to me all the time and say, well, can you help me with this problem, or can you do something to this bill? What doesn't go to committee like it normally should, it never gets amended, and then it comes to the floor and is never amended because almost all of our spending up here is lumped into one big bill. It's called a continuing resolution. It just means that we haven't done our job, and when the deadline comes and it's almost midnight, then we'll eventually do our job, but it's not done in a very good fashion. So we don't change programs, modify them, or make them better because we just go from deadline to deadline. But none of these things are being discussed or in committee, and I think that's why Americans are unhappy with Congress in general. Social Security is $6 trillion in the hole. Medicare is $35 to $40 trillion in the hole. You would think they would be in a committee discussing an outcome to them instead of throwing them around like a football and the public saying, oh, you don't care about old people. Well, we all care about the programs and we want to fix them, but they can't be fixed unless we're discussing and working on a solution instead of waiting till midnight each time and then trying to throw something up there. One of the things we are talking about that I think may have some action on and may impact farmers in Kentucky is immigration. There is some momentum forward on immigration reform. I'm in favor of immigration reform. I think one of the main things we need to do is expand the work visas. Many of the illegal immigrants that we have in our country are illegal because they came here for jobs and there weren't enough work visas. If you had more work visas, you'd have less illegal immigration. These people would be paying taxes. You wouldn't have to worry about whether they're legal or not legal when you hire them. I think there are ways to make the work visa program work better for agricultural workers as well. The one thing I will insist, though, and the one amendment that I will have to the bill when it comes forward is I have an amendment called Trust but Verify, which means that in the past when we've normalized people, if you normalize 11 million people, meaning giving them work visas, you can't do that and say to the rest of the world, well, you can come and get one too, or you can come and break the law and then we'll grant you work visas also. You have to stop at some point and you have to secure your border. What we've done in the past is we've promised to secure the border, but we never do. Politicians will promise a lot of things, but a lot of times they don't fulfill the promises. So what I have is a Trust but Verify amendment. What happens is we expand the work visas, we expand the visas for people with PhDs and masters, things a lot of us agree to, and then at the end of the year we work towards securing the border, and we have a report, but not a report just done by the President, and the President accepts it. It's a report that then comes back and has to be voted on by Congress, and we decide, as your representatives, whether we think the border's secure. We do that each year for several years in a row, and we gradually normalize those who have come here. The main difference is that we don't speed up the process for those who came up here illegally. The main change will be we don't send them home because they're not going home, and nobody's planning on sending them home. We allow them to stay here, but they get in the line like someone who was coming to this country. I think if we do that and secure the border, we can make our workforce better and our immigration better, and we're using these workers, and most farmers say they can't get their job done without using migrant workers, so we need to make it easier. As far as the biggest problem facing us as a country, though, it's still our debt. We're borrowing $50,000 a second. We have to do something about it, and you've heard about this thing called the sequester. The sequester is a slowdown in the rate of growth of government. The president's being dishonest when he lines up policemen and firemen behind him. I can't say it any other way. Your policemen and firemen are paid with your local taxes. And if you need more policemen and firemen, you have to raise your local taxes. And that's why it's a local community decision, always has been. 98% of their salary. There are some federal grants, and there really shouldn't be any federal grants for police and fire. That should be something you as a local community decide. But still, even with the grants, 98% of their salaries are local. They're not losing their job through the sequester. It's irresponsible of the president to say we're not going to have any traffic control and you're never going to get on your plane because of the sequester. It's a slowdown in the rate of growth of government. Fox has had it on there, the chart. The chart goes up like this, and under the sequester, it goes up like this. You can't even see the space between the two lines over 10 years. That's how little this is. We came up with something we call sequester without layoffs. I don't know if they'll let me vote on it, but I'm trying to get a vote for tomorrow. And what we do is we show areas in the budget you could cut and not lay off anybody. If you don't rehire people who retire, 100,000 federal workers retire every year. That's $6 billion, $6.5 billion. If you were to say to federal workers, guess what, we're short of money, we're going to pay you what you would have gotten in the private marketplace, which is about 16% less, which would be a bitter pill for them, but it's what you're making. I don't understand why they couldn't take a pay cut. If you did that, that's $32 billion. If you said you can't travel first class anymore and you can't fly around to conferences in Las Vegas at taxpayer expense, and we cut the travel budget by 25%, that's another $2 billion. If we then looked at foreign aid, sending monies to countries that are burning our flag and chanting death to America, let's just cut off half of that. Let's start there. That's about $20 billion. If you said then, what else can we do? What about competitive bidding? You would think that all contracts that we use in government are competitively bid. They're not. If you insisted that they all be competitively bid and that the wages be competitively bid. Right now, if they come to Western Kentucky, they're going to pay $50 an hour for federal work when the going wage might be $20 or $25 because it's a federal law. If we got rid of that law, your schools would, you'd build 20% more schools. Your schools cost 20% more than they should because of that. And so there are a lot of ways we could do this without layoffs. And I think what I would say is the sequester is the very least we could do. Oh, Mitch, while you weren't here, I got elevated to senior senator. Did you know that?
Pretty fast ride.
Yeah. I'm going to close with that, but I did want to say now that Senator McConnell's here is that it's also because of his position and leadership that I was able to get a position on the Foreign Relations Committee and able to ask some pointed questions to Hillary Clinton. Now, I don't doubt her patriotism or her motives, but I asked her some pointed questions because people died in Libya because I think terrible mistakes were made. And she was asked repeatedly for more security. She was asked repeatedly more help. She never read the cables. She didn't do anything to act on them. The people who worked for her didn't do anything. And I think that's inexcusable. But I wouldn't have been in a position to ask those questions had Senator McConnell not fought for getting me a position on that committee. And I thank him for that. I thank you for letting me serve and for letting me come to a great breakfast again this year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.